Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So today I want to share my highlights from the first chapter in Richer, Wiser, Happier. This book right here. Phenomenal book. Highly recommend to anyone who wants to become a better investor. And it's really beyond investing. It's principles for success in life. So I'm going to share my highlights from chapter 1 on Mohnish Pabrai. Mohnish Pabrai, many of you know, is my investing mentor. I've probably learned more from Pabrai than I've learned from any other investor. So, and it was really fun to get into some stuff in chapter 1 here that I didn't even know about Pabrai. And I've been following him for like 5 years now. So let's dive right in. It starts off with a quote from Charlie Munger, who is Mohnish Pabrai's mentor. Okay, I believe in the discipline of mastering the best that other people have ever figured out. Okay, really a testament there to the power of cloning, the power of shameless cloning, and of course, Pabrai is the master shameless cloner. So this was a little tidbit that I had never heard before. It starts off, so Pabrai in ninth grade was sorely lagging his peers, okay? He did not get good grades. He was like 162 out of 165 in his class, okay? Something like that. But what happened in ninth grade, he was given an IQ test, and he scored 180 on that IQ test. And it gave him, it kind of lit a fire under him, because the guy who administered the IQ test basically said, look, you're not really applying yourself when it comes to your grades. And it allowed Pabrai to see himself in a different light and have some confidence to kind of figure out what he wanted and go after that thing. So I didn't know he was such a terrible student in ninth grade. Of course, he discovered Warren Buffett in 1994, and he was astonished to learn that Berkshire Hathaway had racked up investment returns of 31% annualized. Okay, this is actually Buffett. Buffett, 31% annualized over 44 years, starting at the age of 20. Okay, so from 20 to 64, Warren Buffett had 31% annualized returns. That is just insane. So, that's 18 doubles in those 44 years for Warren Buffett. So Pabrai decided to create a game for himself. He decided, all right, I have $1 million here in 1995. I sold a part of my business, and I want to turn this $1 million into $1 billion in 30 years, okay? That's not even a 31% annualized return that Buffett was getting. It's 26% per year. Turns $1 million into $1 billion in 30 years, 1,000 times his money. So that was the game that Pabrai set out to play back in 1995. And his approach to it was, study Buffett, study how Buffett picks stocks, and simply mimic his winning approach, right? He's already figured this thing out. So I just need to figure out how he did it, and do it. Just lift Buffett's process for picking winning stocks and getting these great returns. So it's very simple. Identify the most skillful player of the game that you're trying to win. Analyze why they're so successful, and copy their approach with scrupulous attention to detail. Okay? It's got to be kind of down to the T in terms of really understanding why the approach works. You can't half-ass cloning. And Guy Spear has come out and said, it's very impressive how, regimented Pabrai is when it comes to applying this shameless cloning to so many different areas of his life. So I kind of have a newfound respect for how far Pabrai has taken this idea of shameless cloning. And of course, William Green, the reason he opens with Pabrai in chapter 1, the overarching purpose of this book is to share ideas worth cloning, okay? Covering, the greatest investors of our time. What are some of the, principles that they've used to achieve so much success? That's really the basis of this book. So, so Pabrai says, investing is mostly a matter of waiting for the rare moments when the odds of making money vastly outweigh the odds of losing money. And the analogy is you're sitting at the side of a stream with a spear in your hand, and you're waiting for the fat fish to come along. Okay, you're just waiting. You see a fat fish, you spear it. You have this moment of this pounce kind of energy. You know what you're going for, and you pounce on it. And then you wait, right? You go back, you eat the fish, you go back to waiting. It's a great analogy for how Pabrai invests, for how Charlie Munger invests, for how Warren Buffett invests. These very infrequent but decisive actions. Pabrai talked about Seritage growth properties. Okay, I own Seritage. I know a lot of you are invested in Seritage growth properties. So he figures he's going to make 10 times his investment on Seritage as the fear recedes and others recognize the value of its prime assets. Okay, so Pabrai talks a little bit about what got him interested in the Seritage investment. He says, the market hates all of this near-term noise and pain, right? You've got this business that owns all of these retail locations. The pandemic comes along, retail gets slammed. And so there's all of this uncertainty in the market, right? Price tanks by like 80%, something around 80%. And Pabrai is able to see what not many others are able to see, that this short-term panic, this uncertainty in the short term, does not mean that there's downside risk, okay, for the investment. Because the price has been driven so low, he actually sees it as a very safe investment. Low downside, high upside opportunity when Pabrai was buying at around $7 a share back in, I think that was May of 2020 when Pabrai was buying into Seritage. He also says he liked that Buffett, whose investment record in real estate is almost perfect, owns Seritage in his personal stock portfolio, right? This was the guy Pabrai was originally cloning back in the mid-90s, okay? He gets this chance to buy something that Buffett owns in his personal portfolio at a fifth or even a sixth of what Buffett originally paid for Seritage growth properties. So, that's kind of the high level, what got Pabrai pretty excited about Seritage growth properties. So where does Pabrai get his investment ideas, right? Very exciting. We are in 13F season, everyone. Every quarter, the best investors in the U.S., anybody who's managing over 100 million in U.S. equities has to reveal what they bought, sold, held in the previous quarter, okay? So these are just coming out. Some came out today, some came out yesterday. There's going to be a bunch coming out tomorrow. Very excited about this. And that's really where Pabrai gets a lot of his new investment ideas. He borrows them by analyzing the portfolios of great investors such as Warren Buffett, Ted Weschler, Seth Klarman, David Einhorn. He looks at the top 3 to 4 holdings, so these high conviction positions, and tries to figure out the investment case, right? Tries to reverse engineer why these investors went big on these particular companies, okay? So we get to see in the next day these great investors what they've bought in the previous quarter and try to reverse engineer those moves. So very exciting time. To be a great cloner, you have to check your ego at the door. Okay, this isn't about feeding one's ego. This isn't about having a great idea that nobody else is seeing. It's about winning a game. Okay, this investing is a game to Pabrai. He wants to win the game. Okay, it doesn't matter if he comes up with the idea. You know that there's no more points at the end for having original ideas in the game of investing. The game is, how do I turn $1 million into $1 billion in 30 years? So, you know, if it's going to be much more likely to get there by copying ideas from great investors, that's how he's going to do it, and that's how he has done it, using great investors to come up with ideas to then go into the business and really understand the business and break down the investment case. And if he can understand it, right? If at the end of the day he can explain it to an 8-year-old in a couple sentences, he invests in it. So that's really his approach. The simple formula for outperformance. Okay, there's a few bullet points here. Be patient and selective, saying no to almost everything. Okay, so important. Patient and selective. Number 2, exploit the market's bipolar mood swings. All right. Now, there's a lot of people who make bad decisions when there's a lot of volatility in the market because they look at Mr. Market and say, all right, Mr. Market must know something that I don't. Okay. This company went down a bunch in price. It must not have been a good investment. I got to get out. I don't really know what I'm doing. Now, Pabrai, he invests because he understands the business. He knows what the business is worth. He knows that Mr. Market is pricing the business much lower than it's worth. And so if the next day Mr. Market says, this thing is going down even more, okay, I'm just going to keep driving this stock price lower and lower, Pabrai is able to look at that and say, all right, well, that's not rationally priced. I can choose to buy more as the price goes lower and lower, or I can just sit and I can wait until the market rationally prices this business according to what the value of the business is. So that's the second one. Exploit the market's bipolar mood swings. Pabrai loves volatility because it gives him opportunities to either buy very low or sell high. Number 3, buy stocks at a big discount to their underlying value. Okay, I kind of touched on that in the last point. Number 4, stay within your circle of competence. Buy businesses that you understand. Okay, if you understand a business, you're not going to let those fluctuations in price make you make emotional decisions, make the wrong decisions at the wrong times. It's really important to understand the business, which means stay in your circle of competence. Number 5, avoid anything too hard. Warren Buffett on his desk has a basket that says too hard on it. Any investment opportunities that come his way that he doesn't understand, they're too difficult, go into the too hard pile. Okay? That's where the vast majority of investment ideas go. They end up in the too hard pile. So don't be shy to, kick an idea out the door because it's too hard. Number 6, make a small number of mispriced bets with minimal downside and significant upside. This is Pabrai's whole heads I win, tails I don't lose much. There's a number of different ways to arrive at opportunities like that, but that is consistent across the board when Pabrai makes investment decisions. Is the downside protected? And what's the upside? Okay, very important. But first, is the downside protected? How much can I lose on this opportunity? And I mean, this is a simple formula for outperformance that very few investors follow. Okay, Nobody's willing to do these things. So for the few of us who are willing to kind of follow this set of rules, there's so much opportunity. Okay, that's really the opportunity for us here. Okay, last page here. Anytime you get a truth that humanity doesn't understand, it's a huge competitive advantage. Okay, and he's referring to this book, Power versus Force by David Hawkins. I actually just bought this book on Audible. I've never heard Pabrai talk about it before, but I guess there's a lot of things in here in this book that have really helped Pabrai. Principles that most people don't adhere to, don't follow, to really get these compound benefits in life and investing. So simple ideas, okay? Taking very simple ideas seriously. Compounding is a very simple idea that actually very few people are fluent in compounding, okay? It's the reason we see so much short-termism in the markets, such short holding periods. People don't understand compounding, all right? Cloning is a very simple idea that very few people are willing to do, right? To execute on. There's something in our DNA that prevents us from copying great ideas that other people have. So for those who are willing to transcend that, who are willing to be cloners, huge advantage. There's just a huge edge if you're willing to do that. And then telling the truth is a very simple idea, okay? That, not all that many people adhere to, right? Even if it's just kind of these little white lies, or you're not fully truthful because you're trying to protect someone's feelings or whatever it is. If you're willing to tell the truth, and I guess Pabrai, he takes that to the fullest reaches, right? He exercises that to the fullest extent, telling the truth. So when you have a handful of these very powerful, simple ideas, and you pursue them with obsessive fervor, the cumulative effect becomes unbeatable, right? You become unstoppable. And that's really what Pabrai has focused on in his life, really distilling the couple core things to focus on and really apply 10,000%. Most people, they find these ideas and they dabble half-heartedly in them, and it just doesn't get them anywhere. So that's been a big thing for Pabrai. All right, final wrap-up, lessons from Mohnish. These are William Green's kind of takeaways from our days, spending days, weeks with Pabrai throughout the course of researching for this book. A couple questions William Green asks himself that have been inspired by Pabrai. What winning habits are out in the open that I should clone? Okay. Second question, who should I clone? Who is clone worthy? And part of that, what do I want to achieve? And who are the highest achievers in that arena? Find the best and reverse engineer how they did it, right? What are their systems for success in those areas of life? So rule 1, clone like crazy. Rule 2, hang out with people who are better than you, okay? They'll pull you up. You will rise to the people that you spend the most time with. Rule 3, treat life as a game, not as a survival contest or a battle to the death, all right? Pabrai really sees investing as a game. He sees Dakshana Foundation as a game. That's really core to who he is. He wants to play games that he thinks he can win, okay? That's really what he's all about. Rule 4, be in alignment with who you are. Don't do what you don't want to do or what's not right for you to do. So it's really about knowing yourself, okay, and living in alignment with that inner scorecard, which is the next one. Rule 5, live by an inner scorecard. Don't worry what others think. Don't be defined by external validation. It's such an easy one, especially in our culture, my culture in the US here, maybe it's not our culture. It's definitely my family. When I was young, I wanted validation. I so desperately sought validation from my parents, my teachers, my friends. And it's such a difficult way to live. It's very hard to be happy if you're constantly seeking external validation for how you're living your life. It's so important to define for yourself how you want to live, what makes you happy, and then live according to that. And for me, it takes a lot of rewiring because I'm so programmed to seek, validation from others. I almost don't even recognize that, I can validate myself, right? So that's something I'm really, really working on currently. Rule 6, take a simple idea and take it seriously. This goes back to, really hone in on these core principles that if you really take them to the fullest extent, they will have such a leveraging power in your life. Take a simple idea and take it seriously. And really what's been amazing to Pabrai, this is the last thought for this video here, what's been amazing to Pabrai is how easy it has been to stack the odds in his favor by studying other people's playbooks and consistently borrowing their best moves. All right, this game of chess that Pabrai is playing, studying other people's playbooks. None of this stuff is hard, right? It's very simple. But, there are things about our culture, there are things about our personalities that make them difficult. But at its essence, it's all very simple, right? The challenging thing is putting it into practice and being consistent, being true to the path, true to the journey. So anyway, guys, that's my recap from chapter 1 of Richer, Wiser, Happier. Let me know if you enjoyed this. Maybe I'll make a video about each chapter in this book. Fantastic investors, really, highlighted in this book. Howard Marks, Bill Miller, Joel Greenblatt. There's so many fantastic investors in this book. So anyway, let me know if you want to see more chapters highlighted from this book. And that's all I got for today, guys. All right, I will see you all in the next video. Take care.